Statistics show that if you grow up in a home with an alcoholic, you are likely to grow up to become an alcoholic or marry one. Today, we're diving into recovery for adult children of alcoholics. I'm going to go through some of the 14 recognizable traits of adult children of alcoholics, and then also some recovery tactics, tips, and tricks. I've got the link for this amazing book in the description, so check it out on Audible or through Amazon. Personally, I didn't even discover that ACOA or COA was a thing until I was in college. And at that point, I just dove right into studying and writing about anything I could find on what happens to children of alcoholics when they grow up. And this book was really impactful for me. It's not to say it's a happy journey, but it is a journey of unveiling issues and awakening from why we act the way we do. This has put a lot of power back in my hands, so I really, really suggest it. We're going to go through the page from the first page of chapter 3, which is about survival. The question at the top of chapter 3 is, why are adult children of alcoholics called survivors? You've even heard me call them this because one of my siblings did not make it to adulthood. Children of alcoholics sometimes don't make it to adulthood. Suicide rates amongst children of alcoholics is very prevalent. Why are adult children of alcoholics called survivors? This term acknowledges that ACOAs made it through childhood and stayed alive in what could be described as a war zone. Like shell-shocked war veterans, there were many times throughout their childhoods when their lives were threatened emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Some were sexually violated. Children of alcoholics do an amazing job, listen here, at dodging, negotiating, hiding, learning, and adapting just to stay alive. They learn to be survivors despite the demand that they pretend there is nothing wrong. They have had to shut down their own emotional life many times. They learn to deny it, block it out, repress it, isolate it, disassociate from it. Otherwise, their feelings could have overwhelmed them. Terribly traumatic things happen to children of alcoholics, and it is a testament to their skill and courage that they arrive at adulthood. So though that could be really emotional and that could be very depressing, I want to end on that last sentence there, that you made it. If you're watching this as an adult child of an alcoholic, you're doing better than you give yourself credit for. Now, I do say all of this to again remind you not to get stuck in the sadness of this book. We want to talk about ways to move forward. So I've actually pulled out 14 of the traits of ACOAs from the book, and I want to go over a few of these, not just in a way of expanding your awareness. Here's the things that you might be experiencing that are really negative, but hey, on the flip side of that, here's some things to do to reprogram or recondition that behavior. So number one, I want to talk about this trait that we live life from the viewpoint of victims and are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. I see this all the time in my own past, but also with clients. A lot of clients that come to me, their parents struggled with addiction in the household. And this leaves us in this state, a conscious state, where everything is happening to us. Nothing is within our control, right? That's what we believe. For 15 years, that's why I drank. I dealt with all of these things that happened to me, felt like nothing was within my control. So to this character defect or trait, we could give it all of that negative power, or we could take that away from it, right? So instead of thinking, I'm gonna live my life for the rest of my days in this victim mindset, start questioning that. That was ground zero for me to make my to cause my transformation, spark my transformation was, am I really a victim? And when I started to question that, I saw all of the negative circumstances of my life that were within my control. And instead of getting down and out about it, I let it get me excited, because guess what? Now, if I have control over negative behavior, I can turn it positive. I'm not waiting on something outside of me, a circumstance outside of me, to fix it. This is how we overcome the victim mindset. The second trait that I want to talk about is we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. We feel guilty when we want to stand up for ourselves, when we want to have a voice, especially if when we stand up for ourselves and we have a voice, that causes conflict. If we think back to childhood, our nervous systems were wired to anticipate conflict. Anything we did, we were basically bracing for mom or dad to be upset with us. So we do whatever we can to keep them happy. And we put our needs aside. And if we happen to speak up about them, we feel guilty about it. And that doesn't have to be any longer. What we want to do is believe that we are worthy of feeling guilt-free. It was an absolute belief of mine that I was going to live in a rumination state of guilt for the rest of my life. I'm just always going to feel like this. But the moment I was aware of it, and then I started to tell myself, you do not have to feel bad for knowing your worth, that started to reprogram my mind. Remember, constant spaced repetition of the polar opposite belief. So if I believe I'm stuck in this guilt phase, I just have to tell myself I am worthy. You do too. The next one, we become addicted to excitement. If you think about the type of emotional state we were in as kids, any type of thing that felt good, we were all in on because we weren't used to that, right? At home, everything felt very negative, very heavy, very sad. The moment anything felt fun and we were allowed to play and be kids, that was very, very exciting. So as you grow up, you might find that you start to become addicted to things that bring excitement, adrenaline, anything that produces dopamine for you. So obviously we know that a lot of times that turns to alcoholism or falling somewhere on the alcohol use disorder spectrum, but it could be other things as well. It could be if you find work exciting, you become such a workaholic that you're ignoring your family and your own personal development. There's all sorts of ways that this plays out. But if you feel like you are addicted to anything outside of you that makes you happy, that's a sign and that's a trait from ACOA. All you have to do is eliminate whatever it is that you are depending on, whatever that crutch is, and test it out, see what you can replace it with for a few weeks. It's called the substitution method. If you're struggling drinking, then substitute that with something else that's going to make you feel good for a few weeks. If you're struggling finding excitement only from men or women, people of the opposite sex, then maybe find another way to find excitement. Go shopping or go skateboarding, go rollerblading, go biking, whatever it is, find something else that releases those happy hormones for you. The last trait that we're going to discuss today is actually the most prevalent that I see in myself and amongst clients, and that's that adult children of alcoholics are oftentimes very critical of themselves and they have very low self-esteem. If you think about this, we were often wired as children to believe that everything we do is wrong, to believe that everything about us is negative. There could be certain traumatic experiences that are taking huge dents at some specific part of your self-confidence, your self-worth, whether that be sexual abuse, or for me, it was my mother's verbal abuse and finding my brother after he committed suicide. These things that affect my self-image and my self-confidence led me to think I needed alcohol to make myself better or to soothe myself from that inner critic that was always there to bully myself. So with this, building confidence is the idea. In order to have the antidote to lack of self-worth and a really strong, powerful inner critic, the antidote of that is self-love, is self-acceptance. When's the last time you genuinely said something nice to yourself, whether out loud or mentally? When's the last time that you finished out a project or experience, endeavor, and you said, wow, I'm really happy with the way I performed? If you've always been nagging at yourself and telling yourself this was wrong, that was wrong, you're always going to struggle with your confidence, and you're always going to need something to escape from that inner critic. So build self-love. The Magnify method, and I would say the entire program is really built with that belief of let's get you to fall back in love with you so that you like yourself again too. All right, we covered some really pertinent points from this very valuable book today, but I invite you to check out the link in the description, get this for yourself, and spend some time studying it. Remember not to get stuck too long in the negative end of the emotional spectrum, but this can really, really change and transform your life if you had a mom or a dad that was an alcoholic and growing up you felt like you just weren't normal and now you're experiencing either addictive behavior, lack of self-confidence, lack of self-worth. If all of those things resonate with you too, I know this book will help you. It's on Audible. It's also in paperback version. So just make sure you check out that link and comment whatever questions you have. Now, we only covered a few of the traits from the laundry list, 14 traits of an adult child of an alcoholic. So we're gonna be hitting those again. Make sure you get this book for yourself. It's very impactful, life-changing, and the link's in the description.